Right. Okay. Cool. Sorry. Just a bit of a faff. Okay. So Taro's monitoring it, and yeah, thanks for joining me this evening. Our inaugural indie dev hour. Let's
Pleasure.
hope there's another one after this. Um, how are you doing? You well?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah,
Slightly upset about the rain, given that it's mid-July and everywhere else in Europe is having a heat wave.
I think
Uh,
it's better than being on fire.
that is a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, cool. So we're going to talk about the Clive is a good guy game,
yeah.
and hopefully get into sort of the script and the story. And I've got some things I wanted to sort of discuss with you anyway, and we could kind of talk through where we're going to with some of the different elements. If we've got time, we can maybe talk about some of the things we've done before. But so it's largely about script and story. Clive is a good guy is going to be a mobile FMV game, and we're also sort of launching a signed postcard competition from Neil, who's playing Clive, and we'll do that just before the end tonight, within the hour, hopefully. So, yeah, where are you up to with Clive? Are you? Because obviously we've been working on it about 18 months now, haven't we? So
Yeah,
where
yeah.
we're up to?
Uh, I think when it all started 18 months ago, it was in a very different place than it is now, which I think is a good thing. I think that shows that we've listened to one another, listened to everybody involved, and which is really important, obviously. And I think that in the early days we used the writing team, and I think that was a good idea to develop the characters. Because Clive didn't actually exist at the very beginning, and I always thought someone should, but in the end, it was like we finally reached this point in time where I think we all realised that we needed someone to put all these characters inside. I mean, that's how I saw it. Anyway, that's what I always thought. I thought we need a vessel. We've got all these characters. I mean, you could just, it would be quite a bit dry if there wasn't, from a story point of view, it'd be very dry if there wasn't someone that is in trouble or traumatized by all these characters and then has to change and the game changes them. And I think that made sense to me when we finally got to that stage. And it's that blending of traditional story and interactive story, and it's always a really, really difficult balance, so that you don't want it too much story, you don't want it just film, you want engagement, you want agency with the player, the user. So that's a very, very difficult tightrope, but I think from everything we've done in the past, I think this is really kind of gelled and kind of making sense.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting point that thing, and obviously there is a document of a dialogue between you and I about that kind of idea of like, should we have a main character? And I couldn't get it until we got all the characters working together, and I felt like I would be like not just out of my comfort zone, but I wouldn't know what to do with a vessel character until we had like all of the nine characters that we'd come up with working together in the game. So yeah, it was an interesting kind of thing to get there, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's quite, that can be quite daunting. Like, we got nine characters, do we really need another one? And yes, we bloody do. But it's like, yeah, it's tricky getting there. And I think working with the other writers was really a character creation, all the techniques that every writer uses. They were doing all that, and it was making them all come alive. And obviously then it's over to Neil and his great performances. So it's just seeing the stages of it. And then that point when, because I remember talking, we saying, right, is it are they all in a hot air balloon and the player has to decide who's going to survive, which is okay, but it's nothing. There's not that much emotional content. Whereas if they're in a character's head and we learn about the character, the vessel, where they all live, and what's happened to them through backstory and how that's leaked into the game, it's good. It's really interesting. There is an emotional reason you're trying to help this person, because you might hate them to start with, but you might like the characters. And you'll have your favorites and you'll have your ones you hate, because I know I do. I've got characters I hate, and I'm not going to say who, or they just annoy me. And then there's ones that I really enjoy. So everybody's going to have that. It's like, that's just human nature, and yours will be
really
different
interesting.
from mine.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I'm so pleased that it's happened that way, because obviously that's the gamble. That's the gamble that we took. That was a leap of faith. He's like, we're going to try this, and like 9 different characters, all by the same person, all played by the same person. Are they different, and are people going to attach to them in different ways? That was always the dream, and like, so far test would lead us to believe that is the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had characters, but no story world, if you like. Because I'm a big fan of story world, and where the story lives, and in a way, the characters are the story, and that they needed to live somewhere, and it was either in a hot air balloon or that similar device. Whereas in someone's head, you have to think about that person.
Yeah, I mean, somebody mentioned the lifeboat game, which I wasn't entirely familiar with, but when I checked it out, like, I totally get what that is. I mean, it's a bit like the 10 Little Indians kind of horror story type of thing, but played through in a game. But yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Maybe Clive, in a way, Clive is our story world.
Yeah,
for the characters, for the 9 characters that we came up with first.
Yeah,
and but yeah, I wonder if we're going to extend it further. I don't know. I mean, I think part of my nervousness about kind of going too broad is just resources and time and energy to do anything as a game. Is just like, it's just a huge undertaking. So
yeah. I mean,
I have to try and slow myself down, really, in terms of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, the way I had to sort of like give it a logic, if you like, was that yeah, the characters live in Clive. Clive lives in the real world, in our world, and that's so when we see Clive, he's
one of us.
He's every he walked down the street or whatever. That's Clive, and we're going to talk about the short film later, aren't we? Because there's a few ideas about how you establish that.
Yeah.
And
indeed, if indeed we do a short film, seems kind of slightly obvious, because I think there's places where we could start putting that out, and we've got all this great video material, and we could create a real oddity of a short film just by dint of the 9 characters played by one guy. Just that's a short film only has to be one good idea done really well, and we've got that in spades. So to do a short film to promote the game seems like a no-brainer, really, to me.
Yeah. I think there's loads.
Should I play that clip? I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, like the short film, the core idea. I mean, I could just put the video on now. It's about 5 or 6 minutes
with all with the clips in it. Yeah.
And then anybody who's watching, it's kind of interesting, because like marketing wise, we're trying not to show those characters because we want to familiarize people with the idea of Clive first and not kind of lead with the characters, because that's a bit confusing anyway. And you know, the confusion is the story at a certain point, but we don't want to start from that point of view. But yeah, should we have a look at those characters maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna share my screen. And I've got the video set up here. So where is it?
My mind flickers between the person I was, the person I could have been, and yes, the person I am. The history of the world and my part in it. Am I Herodotus, the great chronicler, preserving the knowledge for future generations? Or am I can't stand it, the latest failed husband and father in the family line? History repeating.
My memory is not what it was. Not bad by any means, but it's easy to forget a few things when you have been knocking around a couple of 100 years. You know, full stomachs, health problems, diseases and the like. Modern technology has basically solved it all. Our mortality has been cured, and so all we have left are questions, and the unfathomable expanse of time to think about the answers.
AI5 and me, born on the same day in the same year. We like brothers. The kind of siblings who do not get along, you know? Been separated for 40 years. Now, he want to come back. A bit too soon, don't you think? They say history repeats itself, but I never really been a fan of reruns. It's a bloody grind, if I'm honest. Getting to the end of the world, and then to the end of the day, and you not being there. It's funny. I spend all my time at work helping other people. I can't help myself. You'd find that funny. Nobody else gets it. I am a life unlived. Strangled in the womb by my sleeping brother. A dead thing lingers and infects a living thing, and vice versa. My whore of a mother was my Judas, but 2 weeks on a psych ward made me see exactly what God wanted me to do. A modern world needs a modern church. I combine technology with the holy to deliver God's message. Yes, there is a small fee. But even a man of God must eat. And what price? Salvation. I'm a stone cold killer, man. Shit. The people I've sniped before they even knew I was there. That's funny shit, man. You'd be proud of me, wouldn't you? Yeah, I know you would. I'm living life to the full, just like you did. 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'll show you. I will. There's a man in the mirror and a woman looking back at him. His world is grey like concrete, and mine is bright technicolor. Let any of you bastards call me Dorothy, and you'll get a taste of my fist. I like it best when my mind drifts over my driving. Like I'm in a flow. I record ideas into my phone and I work on them when I get back home. I still think about your story. I wrote 100 pages last year. But when I read it back, I felt like I hardly knew you. My own brother.
Yeah. Sorry, let me just turn the video off. Yeah, so that isn't necessarily what a short film would be, but I think it's a flavour of what we could do. I mean, my idea is that we make a fake documentary. We can use it green screen, put stuff in the background. And the idea, I mean, I think we could have it so that they're all talking about to somebody else or about somebody else. And we imagine that that person is Clive for some reason. Or anything else. I mean, it doesn't have to be those clips. We've got like, how many clips have we got? We've got like nearly 100 clips of each character in different sorts of things. But I think we could make something that works without it being like a massive on cost in terms of resources.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be nice to have the different voices, probably shorter clips.
Yeah.
Or even just expressions, just looking out the things. I think also we probably, I mean, I'm just thinking here, I think if we need to see Clive, I just have this image of him walking, just walking and like through the streets or whatever, through the countryside. And we're just either in front of him or, which is kind of similar to the shots that are there, or we're following, and they need to cut that walking, that journey, if you like, with those voices and different kinds of, is it documentary? And then the images, green screening images, I don't know, from the game, maybe. Kind of, so there's like a visual clues to what's happening. I made a list of like images that as well, like bubbles, the red ball, if we're still doing that, cracking ice, cracking mirrors, and splintered reflections, that sort of thing, which I think are all relevant to the game and to the story. And I've got this shot, and I don't know whether it's possible whether Neil would do it, where he just walks into a lake. Yeah, that's one for you. That's one for the producer. Or a body double.
my grandfather committed suicide by walking into a lake.
Oh, geez, I didn't know that. Wow.
No, don't worry. I think it's all.
But it's just because
really. So it's kind of relevant. It works for me. I don't have any issue with it at all.
It's because of the backstory is, and it's like it just feels like a kind of a good circle. And as he walks in, he's just saying, "Can anybody help me? Can anybody help me?" And then I don't know how you end it. That's like, as far as I got, with just sketching out a kind of line
You have to think, you know, I'm like a laugh at tragedy and misery. So it's quite amusing to me.
Yeah, I know. I never knew that either. But I think also, I mean, that's interesting that makes you laugh because I was looking at those clips and I was thinking about tone, and there's a good balance there. There's a good spread, and I think there's like there is light and dark. There is like a comedy characters there, and so and we can't forget they're all a product of one man's mind.
Yeah, but I think in the context of a short film,
Yeah,
I think whatever works for the short film gives us the best promo for the game. I know there's kind of story world and stuff, but you know, because they're all talking to their significant others, and those significant others aren't Clive. They're like, I'm not going to reveal it on here, but you know, they're important other people to those characters, and that's what they're trying to achieve in the game themselves, because they're trapped in their own game, aren't they? So those gags are them trying to resolve things for themselves and their significant others. And this brings me on to a point which I also wanted to discuss with you about the end of the game. But the fact that if we set the short film up so we kind of feel like, so that the audience think that they're all talking about Clive, it's fine, I think. I mean,
yeah.
it's totally amplifying the material in a way. And you know, I don't know. I mean, I guess it doesn't all neatly fit within the story world, but we're dealing with like shards of personality, imagination, madness, and I think if that's our story world to some extent, I mean, for me, that is the context of what we're doing, then an imaginary documentary where all these characters are talking about Clive is valid, I think, because in the game they don't know who Clive is actually.
Yeah,
as far as we have it.
yeah. So, and then it's perspective. Where are they telling their story from after being saved? How do they? Because that's the only way they're going to know Clive, isn't it? Although they don't really exist.
The thing is, if Clive, if the document, like, because we also have this thing with the coin trailer, like, you know, what's the context of that within a story world if we're thinking in transmedia terms? And you know, in a way, the coin trailer, which is a sort of digital decision-making app, flip of a coin, making decisions, and like sharing those results. It's a bit like that's a product of Clive's imagination as well, possibly before the mirror, because like he invents the mirror game to trap the characters because the personas have become so real. He's afraid that they're gonna leave him like everybody else left him. Whereas maybe the coin spinning trailer, Live by the Spin, is a product of a more vicarious, kind of nihilistic period in his life, which we see a little bit of in the res clips. And Live by the Spin is kind of what's going on in his head at that point in time. In a way, kind of the use, because he has the characters from when he's 10 years old to when he's like 53.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I mean, so the documentary could be like Clive thinking, you know, he could be sitting by the lake thinking, if they knew me, what would they say about me? If I jumped in the lake, what would they all say about me?
Yeah. Or is it the coin flip, heads I jump in, tails I don't? Is it that kind of?
That's also the trailer though.
Oh, right.
He's like doing like, because it was funny. I was watching somebody in Amsterdam last week when I was there doing some work, like with their thumbs playing one of the trailers that we made, and I was like, fucking hell, they just cannot operate this thing because everybody's got such a different style of operating with their phone. And I thought, we're going to have to get like a hand model we're going to have to like record the screen and get a hand model to do trailers. But I think it's a good idea to show people how to play it if they want to get the best out of it. perhaps. But I thought that with the coin trader thing, we could record the street, get somebody to do a hand model thing, and that person says, "Will I jump in the lake?" And they spin the coin. He goes, "You will jump in the lake." And they put the phone down in front of the camera, and they go, and then you see them just go. Maybe Neil would do it. I don't know.
I mean, it's definitely, obviously, you know, like Dice Man, Luke Reinhardt,
Yeah,
the 1971 book, where he actually, the character, apparently some people thought it was quite autobiographical, but
well, he created a fake persona.
there's
He was like Luke Reinhardt wasn't a real person.
no Cochran or so was the writer's name, and then but he invented this character. I mean, he invented this character who he said wrote the book. But it's just, is that just a pen name? Like, you know, I don't know. But he took it a bit further, I think, and invented. You know, I think he was supposed to be a psychiatrist as well or something.
Yeah.
And that he'd said he'd lived this life by rolling dice and 6 choices. So I like that. I like all that.
It was a legend. I mean, to people of my generation, probably your generation, it was a total legend, that book. I remember my older brother talking about it in like hushed tones. You know what I mean? It was like, it was almost like the book. Would you dare read it? Would anybody let you read it, kind of thing? I remember by the time I actually got to read it, because I was probably 8 or 9 when I first heard about it, and then I read it when I was 12. It was somewhat of a disappointment. It wasn't quite the. I mean, it was brilliant, but it wasn't.
I think you actually have to do it. Do the dice roll to actually appreciate it. I mean, I don't think I can't remember, but I think if I would have done it at that age, it would have been 5 pubs, 1 church or something. And that would have been the choice. But, you know, I don't know. It's a great idea. It's a really infectious idea.
And Live by the Spin is that kind of thing as well. So I think it's an interesting one. And to some extent, our sort of target audience are older people. So, you know, I think there's some kind of relevance there on that. I mean, the other thing that I was kind of coming up with last week was I was thinking about the end of the story, and I was wondering, I mean, I think there's got to be multiple options at the end, but in a way, for me, I think this may not be something that you're into, but obviously it's all the kind of dialogue that we're having in an ongoing way. But I in a way, I think that the player, if they resolve all of the characters and they're left with Clive, in a way, it would be great if the player becomes a significant other to Clive and resolves Clive. It's a happy ending. And in a black and white style. I mean, obviously, you have the choice to not do that, and that's like a bit of a dual-edged sword. But I do think that ultimately we want to save Clive, and there's several reasons why I think that's kind of works quite well. One being that it means we can play like Clive in his kind of in his role as the villain of the piece, because he's the antagonist to us and to all of the personas. Is we can make him very, very villainous. Even though it's kind of, he's got problems, he is being a villain, and it is our job in the game to save the personas from their fate within Clive's head. But it means that those kind of clips that we have, we can play those really strong in terms of Clive's villainy in a way, and his kind of.
Well, I think I mentioned that earlier, that you don't have to like him to start with.
Yeah.
But then you can understand, you can start to understand him. And
but
then
I'm sure we had a conversation.
Then empathy will become a part of it.
Yeah. I'm sure we had a conversation where you were saying, like, we're not going to save Clive.
We're not going to save him.
Yeah, that would be the wrong thing to do. I'm sure we had that
Right,
conversation.
right. That's when I probably thought he was the villain, because we had talks about that as well, didn't we?
I mean, he is the villain for most of the piece, but then we're also
Yeah.
revealing like what's happened to him to make this situation occur,
Yeah.
which is certainly
But
not
in reality, he's not hurting anybody. So you got to remember
exactly, yeah,
that.
apart from himself.
Exactly. So it's, and there was one thing I thought about at the end when, for example, basically Clive is a person, the player saves characters. No, the player will save Clive from a life of chaos and suffering. So to do this, the player must engage with this array of 9 characters, and free them from Clive's mind, Clive's prison.
Yeah.
But does he need to agree to let them go? I just wonder.
No, we do that in spite of Clive.
Right.
And there's some nice things we can do visually with Clive to sort of lighten him, or kind of start to realize, I mean, he could become color, or there's some kind of quite cliche things we can do, but within the game, like step by step, he can become freed. How we represent that visually, I don't know, but there are ways of doing it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm pleased if you're up for that, because I think we have to resolve Clive, and then it means we can really play some of that stuff like really, really tough, rather than stepping back, rather than being on the back foot, because it's good. There's so many kind of mental health issues around this stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, we don't want to be telling a story that is kind of like mocking or taking advantage of those kind of issues, and that's not what we're trying to do. But obviously, people can read things any which way they want to. But yeah, the for me, in these kind of newer Clive backstory clips, to be able to play that stuff, as forcefully as we can, is really like going to really help us. It's going to help make the ending work and help make those scenes really strong as well.
Yeah, I think it just needs a bit of thought, but I think there's definitely
well, today we got a working version of part 2. It's a bit short. We might have to write some Clive into that, because that's when we are kind of releasing them from Clive's grip, which involves the kind of a scene that's sort of under the ice and involves air and ice cracking and stuff. So that's kind of part 2 of each character's resolution. We've got the mirror, which is like an interactive video card game, and then we've got under the ice, which is where we just we get them out of the mirror, but we still haven't freed them, and then we free them through the ice, being under the ice, which kind of mirrors Clive's story, confusingly or not confusingly.
Yeah. And that's gameplay, isn't it?
Yeah. It's shaping up, I think. I mean, it's possibly a tiny bit short at the moment. I mean, we might have a short game, but I think it's going to be really good, and unlike anything that people have played before, in a good way. I don't mean like, this is totally new. We won't know how to work it at all.
I think all this, I think we've got really going now is the story reflecting the gameplay, or the game and the game objectives. They're all really tied in now.
It's like that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I asked that question: is that gameplay? Because they're strong images of from Clive's backstory. So,
Yeah. Did you have a look at the previs stuff that I did?
yes, I did. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we're nearly
Still-
there with that, and that is kind of layers. So we're not like we're going to green screen Neil again, and then build up layers of kind of striking imagery and kind of unusual distortions. I think to really make those scenes like come alive.
yeah,
I think it was good because there's a chap called Guy who Lee put us in touch with, and we've been talking to him, and he's going to be putting that stuff together. He's also going to hopefully help us shoot that stuff. But it was his suggestion that I go onto Photoshop and start putting stuff together, and it really I totally just saw it. I'd never really done that before, like layering up shots and people to make Photoshop storyboards, but it really helped, and I think
yeah.
it's really smart.
Well, it might be worth thinking about storyboarding the short film as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just
My initial idea was just the characters, just the personas footage. So we should have a proper chat about
yeah,
the short film, and hopefully Guy would be up for a conversation about that anyway. So I'll try and arrange a call. I mean, it'd be great if Gabriel, the sound guy, could be on that as well. But Richard, Guy, so yeah, if we because I'm hoping there's not too. I mean, if we're doing an extra shoot, we can pick up some shots with Neil there as well. But hopefully, the bulk of it is there.
yeah. Okay, I think I think just getting that resolution. Yeah, that's I think everything's there. It's just a matter of agreeing on something.
Yeah. Excellent. Cool. So is there anything else we need to sort of talk about on Clive at this stage? Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna go on about the importance of backstory. We had this character, Clive. As I said, he's the vessel, and therefore he exists, and we had to create him. And I think that's all there now.
Yeah.
And it adds an emotional level to the gameplay, which is always a strong thing, and the decision making. It's not just like, imagine it without a story. It'd be a very dry numbers game. So or a very dry, touching the screen game. Whereas now there's a lot more going on, obviously, and that was always the plan. So I think it's shaping up. I think it's getting there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that slightly fell over was the fail stuff. Like, Tara wrote a really good scene which we included as part of the fail thing, and then we tried the idea that if you failed, that there is a scene that's played before you. I mean, it's unlikely that most people will have to go all the way back to the beginning, and obviously it needs kind of governing and balancing. But like, if you completely screw up the mirror sort of interactive video card game, there is a chance that you might fail and have to start again in some way, or start again with that character. And I think Taro had a scene that was really nice where Clive was on his phone looking at something dubious, and the phone exploded. We tried to make that sort of interactive. I thought, because I also thought like making an interactive video fail scene might be quite interesting, but it was kind of too many negatives. It was like, you failed, now you're playing character, then you fail, and then you're all of a sudden you're with Clive and he's getting blown up, and it was the tone of it was wrong, really. So
I think
I just wonder what we can maybe do about that, because I mean, one of the things for me on this project, which has been absolutely like really positive and really like a joyous experience, is that idea of just keep on writing. Like if there's a problem, or if there's something to solve, or if there's something we don't know, we just keep on writing until we find it. And we always find it, and it always improves everything else. And I think that that kind of purity to the kind of story has really been great. So I just think that that's another thing we need to think about, really, is this kind of what happens if you fail, and can we make it interactive in some way?
Yeah. I mean,
Like, can we make the fail like a mini game or something? I don't know.
so you got another chance to get back if you win if you win the failure game.
Well,
You're
that's,
back-
I
you're
hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's
you're back
what-
in the game. That
Yeah.
could work. So it's like,
But then can we kind of not brand it, but you know, have it so that it's from the character that you're with at that moment in time? I suppose so. I think in principle it's probably quite a good idea, and
yeah, they could. I mean, I can't remember obviously all the 1,000 clips, but there must be something that you'd have your main. I mean, your whichever character you failed, they're in the background either encouraging you, or I don't know, something like that, or whatever the game is. I mean, you know those games where you used to have to move around and get the ball into, so like those little actual games you got, and you had to move the balls around. I mean, could it be something like that? You have to get his eyeballs back in his head.
better if we use a red ball actually, but
Oh yeah, Red Bull, yeah. Just so you have to move the phone around like that, and then if you get
that'd be crazy. That'd be crazy if you had like a video loop on the background of the character sort of talking to you, and you're maybe
come on,
trying to
come
get
on,
it
come
in
on,
their
come
mouth
on.
or something. Trying to get the red ball in their mouth.
Stop fucking it up, just do it. And then because that's like, again, character talking to you, and that's, you know, you're trying to do something to get back in the game to save the character,
Yeah,
and he knows that.
yeah, that could work. Cool. Well, we will put that into the mix.
Yeah.
Joe will not thank me, but we do need to have something there, I think. So yeah, it's all coming together, isn't it? And hopefully we'll have a fully working part 1, part 2 within a month. We've got a release Live by the Spin, which is the coin trailer, which is the decision-making app where you put in the question, your dilemma, and the app will help you. And then the characters sort of turn it into a slightly theatrical experience by commenting on your positive or negative outcome.
Yeah. What if it becomes like a strange cult tool thing? People start to, like with Dice Man, there was a lot of people who actually did try living life like that.
That was the legend of it. I'm not sure.
Oh well, I think it's true. What happens though? What do we do? Are we
to take it down if it's that?
No, I think you know, just get some insurance.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can't be held responsible for people making decisions. Like that's what people do day in, day out. We're just kind of offering the chance to
make it more.
I don't think it doesn't take away the fact that they have. Doesn't take away. I mean, this is an interesting ethical debate.
Yeah.
not what I was banking on having. Maybe I should have thought about it a bit more. But the fact of people putting in dodgy stuff, we can't stop that happening. There's absolutely no way. I mean, we're going to kind of have hopefully a way to share and have a competition that allows people to submit their questions, because we have a bank of questions. Childishly, like the one question that I think makes everybody laugh is, will I shit myself? Like everybody completely dies when they see that. But the idea is that everybody can, the winner each day has their question go into that bank. So you can choose like from an existing bank to have a laugh of questions, or you can put your own question in. And if you put your own question in, you can enter the competition to win that day. If you win, you get a signed postcard from Neil, the actor, who is a totally good guy and a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
And that also, I should state here, is because I put it out there today that actually, like, number one in the postcards, in the signed postcards, like, we've had 100 signed by Neil, and number one will go out tomorrow to anybody. There's a competition to anybody who signed up to the email list. So if you're on the email list, you stand a chance of getting number one in the very limited edition of signed postcards from Neil, who plays Clive. And he's done loads of other brilliant acting work, but you know, all those other films and TV shows, nothing really compared to our mobile FMV game, I would say.
He was quite good in Dead Man's Shoes.
He was quite good in Dead Man's Shoes. He's pretty good in everything that he does.
Yeah.
I think, you know, tone-wise, there's a bit of similarity really between Dead Man's Shoes and our game. I think it's a bit dark, isn't it, in places?
Yeah. There's no mass murder though.
True.
Because as I say, Clive doesn't hurt anybody.
He doesn't, apart from himself.
Oh. No.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Let me just, while we're here, and I just want to be sure that there's no questions coming in. I mean, I doubt it, because we're just sort of still starting up. But let me have a quick look anyway, and I will check. But maybe, I mean, obviously we worked together for like 25 years. Is there anything, is there any similarities between this project and anything we've done in the past, would you say?
I don't think. I think it's very different. I think it's very different to Alexander Wilson project. I think it's different to what else have we done? There's quite a lot of other stuff, but it does feel, it does feel very different, I think. You know, apart from Neil Bell, obviously, because we've worked with him before. But I think I'm trying to think. No, I think there are things obviously that there's not a house look, if you like, but there is a sort of, the tone of it's probably similar to some other stuff, like Alexander Wilson project, and some of the crime face. Well, that was quite dark as well. I wouldn't say Clive's dark. I'd say that it's got dark and light. As I said before, the characters are, a variety. There are a variety. There's the comedic ones, there's the tragic ones. So I think there's a good blend.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting for me to kind of look at like what we were doing 20 years ago, and Neil like doing the stuff in the interactive movie for Barry Adamson, Interface, or The Crime Scene as it was called for Barry. And I've done some kind of interviews with Neil where we've talked about that sort of stuff, and he's kind of it's really interesting to get his point of view, like being the person enacting and breathing life into those characters. And we've got all of that sort of material which we're sort of sharing out onto social media as well. But and it's funny because there's one of the characters I really dislike in Clive is a Good Guy, because he kind of reminds me of me. and some people like him, so I was really like, oh. But somebody else said he's just like Simon Quilter.
Just like who?
Simon Quilter from the Alexander Wilson Project.
Which one's that? Which you're not going to say?
Taxi Driver.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
But anyway. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I haven't got a lot more to say really, but I think it's been really interesting. We haven't got any questions as far as I'm aware.
You've done the competition, have you? Yeah.
Done the competition. If you want to win #1 in the limited run of signed postcards, signed by Neil Bell, aka the time grappler from Star Wars Andor, and also whatever his name is from Dune, and Dead Man's Shoes, Downton Abbey, many other films, TV shows, then get on the list. Go to cliveisagoodguy.com and get on the email list. And at midday tomorrow, we'll send out the competition info as part of the sort of weekly update. And of course, that's where you'll get most information about the project as it sort of comes into land, piece by piece. But first thing that we'll be releasing is hopefully on the 21st of August with Live by the Spin, the coin trailer. So yeah, all good. So I'll end the call now, I think.
Okay.
Because I think it's better just to kind of.
What are you doing for the next one?
For the next call.
The next thing, yeah.
I don't know. I'll do one with Neil, hopefully, at some point. I do have a list of ideas somewhere.
Yeah.
I also thought, because me, Joe, and Taro have a call most days to catch up on what the hell is going on with the development and marketing and all of that sort of stuff, is like a two-way street. And within every call, there's always a couple of points of interest, and in a way I should get, I mean, I've been recording every call about the project for like 18 months, and I don't want to go back through that, but as we're doing stuff on the daily calls, there's always at least a couple of minutes, sometimes 10 minutes of really interesting stuff about how the project is coming together. And really I should cut some of those things together, and just stream that on this session. And you know, I don't know if this slot is for us, but it's all a massive experiment in terms of the marketing of it. But I did do some Facebook ads, and I got like really quite interesting results. And I've always thought that social media advertising would be somewhere we could find the people who are interested in slightly off the wall, unusual serials and TV shows and films, and by targeting them, we could find people who would like the game. And I spent $2 on Facebook and just threw up a random clip of Neil and got 16 clicks to the website in an hour. None of them converted because I hadn't sort of authored it to convert. There was nothing to convert to. It was just like a watch more button. But I'm working with a web guy to try and get like a sequence, so that if you go watch more, then there's more to watch, and then there's something else to interact with, and then there's something else to watch. And I think that's the way that we kind of, if people watch and interact, the percentage chance of them signing up goes up each time they interact. So it's really interesting. And I think because we got this black and white footage, like you put that onto somewhere like Facebook, like a video, I think it just stands out a mile. And like I pushed it towards an audience of people who like Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
And like I say, for $2, I got 16 clicks. And I've never really had a result like that before. And it didn't, but we got to work on the conversion and stuff. But yeah, if we can make social media advertising work, that's really going to help us shift some copies of the game, I think.
Right.
It's
Okay.
fascinating though, because to me, it's really interesting with the whole sort of marketing of it, but and a necessary thing. And the more we can make that a kind of story that's interesting to people, hopefully the better it will be. And
Right.
yeah, maybe these calls we do at a different time, depending on like if we're not getting any interest, we either don't do them or we move the time to somewhere, because I don't know if it's hard to know whether anybody's fucking interested at all, really. But that's the job, isn't it? That's the risk that the risks.
Oh, we are two of us.
We are, yeah, definitely. And I'm damn sure that like somebody else in the team is watching as well.
Oh, they better be.
But it was really interesting. I mean, it was really interesting getting your kind of thoughts up front on the call. And obviously, it kind of turned into a bit of a wide-ranging discussion. But it's been a really interesting call, so it's valuable.
Yeah,
on different levels, I think.
I think it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So that's good. Yeah.
Excellent, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, another time we could kind of do a bit of a blow-by-blow sort of going through old projects and having a look and
Cool.
think
Bloody
about
hell.
it. If there's reason enough to do it, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. The Alexander Wilson project scroll. I've still got that. I've still got it somewhere back here.
I've got a few from lost projects that we didn't even make, like
Oh, right.
Last Man Standing is boxing film with like multiple streams interacting between different time scales. We never made it, but we've got loads of stuff going all the way back, haven't we?
Black Van.
Black Van. I walked past the place in Didsbury yesterday. I was talking to somebody and I was saying, Jesus, I went for like what I thought was going to be a really important meeting there, because it was just after the .com boom, and there was like a massive building that got like taken over by some kind of guy who was a millionaire, and he was pumping a load of money into .com, and I went along like with Black Van, like, and I think that the next week they'd shut up shop, so all the money had got like they had a meeting with me, even though there was no money and no chance of giving me any money, and I thought it might be important, but it was really like one of those meetings that you just wish you'd never been to. But it was with Black Van.
Right.
What was you used a quote, didn't you? Of like, in the city there are 1,000 stories or something.
Yeah, lifted out of
Jules Dassin or something.
Naked City, I think it was.
Mm.
TV series or movie. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, plenty more ideas to go back to if we really need to, but first we have to finish Clive.
Excellent.
Brilliant. All right, well, thanks, Richard, and
Right, pleasure. Thank you.
and catch up soon, no doubt.
Yeah. Thanks to all the listeners. All right.
All right, take